welcome. You're watching NewsX with me, Devika Devan. Tonight, a fragile Middle East ceasefire, viewers, is hanging by a thread following an unprecedented and highly dangerous escalation that has sent shockwaves through global energy and security corridors. In the early hours of Sunday, a hostile drone evaded defense systems to strike an electrical generator on the outer perimeters of the UAE's Barakah nuclear power plant. While the UAE's nuclear regulator confirms that all safety systems are intact, there are no casualties and zero radiological leaks, the UN's nuclear watchdog, the IAEA, has expressed grave concern, warning that any military activity near a nuclear facility is entirely unacceptable. The crisis has widened significantly today as neighboring Saudi Arabia announced its air defenses intercepted and destroyed 3 hostile drones violating its northern airspace. Riyadh confirms that these drones were launched directly from Iraqi territory, where Tehran-backed militias operate. The UAE military has reported that the drones targeting the nuclear site also originated from a western trajectory, pointing to a highly coordinated regional cross-border assault. While no faction has officially claimed responsibility, the fingers of blame are pointing squarely at Iran and its proxies. Tehran has remained officially silent on the strike, but has warned of aggressive surprise scenarios if provoked. Meanwhile, the global community has reacted with outright alarm. India's Ministry of External Affairs has strongly condemned the strike as an unacceptable act of aggression that threatens global stability. The political fallout is moving fast. US President Donald Trump has issued a stark ultimatum to Tehran, stating on social media that the clock is ticking and warning Iran that it must act fast or, quote-unquote, there won't be anything left of them. With a US naval blockade tightening around Iranian ports and Iran choking off the Strait of Hormuz, we are tonight on the precipice of a massive regional fracture. What really is the way forward? I take this conversation ahead with Ambassador Sushil Singhal, former diplomat with us, Major Sudhakarji with us as well. I have with me Group Captain UK Devnath and Professor Madhav Nalapat, Managing Editor of the Sunday Guardian. Let me begin with Professor Nalapat. Professor Nalapat, I'd like to understand from your perspective, sir. If this attack is in fact by Iran and its proxies, what sort of waters is Iran trying to test?
Look, I'd like to point out that in the case of Iran, no nuclear facilities of theirs the IAEA is not allowed near any nuclear facility. International Energy Commission, which was set up, frankly, for nuclear safety, and none of the nuclear facilities of Iran are available to IAEA. In contrast, the UAE and the other countries, whatever nuclear facilities they have, are wide open to the IAEA. They can be completely and fully inspected. In the case of the UAE, for example, I know that the UAE is not indulging in any kind of enrichment of spent nuclear fuel. On the other hand, that nuclear fuel is being sent somewhere else, and there is absolutely no sign that the UAE is planning any kind of a weapons program. It's purely for peace, purely for power that that particular plant has been set up and has been functioning under full international safeguards, unlike the Iranian plants which are under zero international safeguards. So I think this is a very irresponsible act, and I think, frankly, what Iran was trying to do is to a message to the United States. And the message, frankly, is that, all right, if you come after us, we can even hit nuclear installations. But that is a bluff, for a simple reason that if the Iranians succeed in hitting a nuclear installation, the radiation will reach Iran in a jiffy. So that's a complete bluff. But they were acting in a most irresponsible manner. And I would like to conclude by saying it only shows the rogue nature of the regime in power in Iran. And it also shows up what I can see is the helplessness or unwillingness of President Trump to finally stop this particular situation once and for all. He has allowed it to drag on and drag on, and I think that's a disgrace. the United States military is way more powerful than the IRGC, but the United States military is only a bystander. And as for Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth, he seems to be fine on television, but not in the field of war. Hegseth is going on one television program after the other. So is his boss Trump, and giving stern and stark warnings to Iran, but action zero. Warnings 100. So warnings don't count. As somebody said, sticks and stones may break my bones, words never harm me. So I'd only like to point out that this is a very irresponsible action on the part of the IRGC, and I do hope that the entire world joins in condemning this action, joins the IAEA in condemning this action, and that any further action in this regard by Iran is stopped, no matter what. This is a fight between the United States and Iran, and the United States and Israel and Iran. The UAE has nothing to do in this particular battle. There are a few American bases there, but that has been there historically to protect the UAE and not to hurt any other country. So I think, again, I would like to conclude by saying this shows the rogue nature of the regime in Iran. It also shows the fact that where Donald Trump is concerned, he talks a lot of hot air, but does very little to translate that into action. And regrettably, the Defense Secretary also is talking a lot of hot air without getting anything done. Unless the Strait of Hormuz is open, what happens to petrol prices? What happens to diesel prices? What happens to all these prices? They're going up through the roof. It's now per gallon, I'm told, is about $110. It's an unprecedented price. It's all because the strait has been closed by the IRGC. And what is the United States doing about it? Nothing. What is Pete Hegseth doing about it? Or convincing his boss? Nothing. I'd like to point out that this is a disgraceful state of affairs, and the UAE has been the victim of nuclear blackmail by the IRGC, but that's only blackmail. It cannot be translated into action, as I repeat, because if there is any action on a nuclear facility, the radiation will reach Iran in a very short time, and that will be very, very damaging to the people of Iran and to the regime. Thank you.
All right, Major and Sudhakarji, bringing you into the conversation. So I want to understand from your perspective as well. When we say that a Donald Trump is not being able to do much in this situation, what's then really the way forward? Because here were all these countries that have for decades placed their faith in the United States of America. They've all had pacts several decades ago that we will allow you to use our soil to build your bases, and you will protect us and we will give you oil. That's also how, we started trading oil in dollars to begin with, if one were to go back to history. But what is the United States of America then really doing? Because President Donald Trump, just before the ceasefire announcement, had put out that tweet saying that an entire civilization is going to die. Well, does the US not have any cards up its sleeves anymore?
Yeah, Devika, good evening. Thank you for inviting me for your show and giving me this chance to respond to this question. It's a very important question. Major part of it has already been responded to by my distinguished co-panelist, Professor Nalapat. I have nothing much to add, but all I can say is I totally agree with whatever the professor has said. But allow me to give a perspective. First and foremost thing is, this is a very dangerous thing that has happened. And the world has to take serious cognizance of it and make an all-out effort to prevent further escalation. Fortunately, it has hit the gen set, and there is no radiation report so far. But then Chernobyl, it started like this and turned out to be a big disaster. So one has to be very, very careful. Second thing is that I think it is just a perspective without meaning to contradict anyone. Whatever little I have gleaned from the open source, it does not specifically point a finger towards Iran. It says from the western boundary, from the western directions. What is the west of UAE? To my understanding, with I would say good knowledge of geography, having been to this country a number of times, I think West is pointing towards Yemen. Maybe the Houthis would have attacked. You are right when you gave in your preamble the proxies of Iran could be held accountable. Because when we are trying to find a solution out here at the moment is to prevent escalation of this particular act. We need to pinpoint as to who is doing it. Iran, in my understanding at the moment, their own house is in fire, the tail is on fire. They're finding it very difficult to sustain themselves as a comprehensive security apparatus or with adequate combat potential. They have, but not as good as the conventional resources of USA and Israel. So these are the two preamble I would like to give. But now coming to the moot question which you have raised. Yes, USA has got a lot to answer. At the moment, they have got a lot of questions coming up in the domestic constituency. Donald Trump is under pressure there. Whatever issues he has put his hand on, they have not given him, yielded any kind of success. Unfortunately, Iran has turned out to be a big blowback kind of a thing at him. And he hoped like hell that he would come back from China with the flag of USA unfurled pretty higher than that of China. But unfortunately, he has been sent packing his baggage without any successful venture or any joint statement. Although it is claimed that some segment of the Western media are claiming that he has had a major share of his success, which I disagree. But in the bargain, what has happened is there is a manifestation of signature of the global order showing very sharp departures from what you and me have been used to in the past decade or so. And then the sharp departure, on one hand, USA has been pushing the agenda for bipolarity, but the realism is actually coming out with multipolarity. That is what China is looking at. Why am I bringing out this point is, in Middle East itself, when we are pointing our fingers and trying to hold somebody accountable like Iran, we need to understand the dynamics in Middle East is also changing. The fault lines are widening. And in the widening fault lines, there are countries which are gradually showing signs of leaning on to, they have lost hope on USA, leaning on to some country. At the moment, it will be too premature to call Israel. There is also a prominent signature gradually emerging, which would perhaps give an orientation of the direction leaning towards Iran. Let's not actually dismiss that idea. So at the moment, there are two crucial issues. Strait of Hormuz, that is the priority one as far as the global order is concerned. And as far as the nuclear enrichment, the moot question is coming. If the nuclear enriched uranium were destroyed in the 12-day conflict of last year, without having taken the Congress authorization, despite having had given assurances during the election campaigning that he will not fight the war or he will not have a war against Iran, what made Donald Trump to start a war, undeclared, unprovoked, illegal war on 28th of February and still hunting for the enriched uranium? So these are the questions which are coming up. Donald Trump doesn't have an easy answer. He's caught in the bind between restraint and escalation. I call it as escalation entrapment. In the entrapment, more he escalates, more he gets entrapped, he doesn't have an easy exit. Then the last question to answer your question is, does he really wants to exit? I don't think so. There is a bigger game plan which is gradually manifesting in an incremental manner. The bigger game plan is to push back China and also restore dominance of petrodollar as much as possible. It is quite indicative, very, very crystal clear now. After Venezuela is Iran, and midway of Iran, he went to China. He has made China to commit that 6 lakh barrels per day. China will be given concession to buy oil from USA, thereby making it dependent on USA, changing the supply chain, as also making China pay in not in yuan but in dollar. That is the ultimate victory that this gentleman Donald Trump is looking for. Like the way the Chevron has already gone and occupied the oil fields along the Nord Stream 1 or 2 in past 2 to 3 months. Transactions have already begun in dollar. Similar things may be he may be hoping at, and in due course of time, sooner or later, you'll be finding the American oil companies coming into the Middle East, and perhaps they will be playing up in the same contour and magnitude and enormity that I have tried to explain. This war is not going to end because the nuclear enriched uranium that he's claiming now, Iran is not going to buckle under pressure, it is not going to give away. And Strait of Hormuz, the day it actually gives on a platter, makes it international water, Iran will be deemed as having surrendered to the USA, which is the last thing that Iran as a civilizational country will accept. So last point to conclude my remarks is that USA needs to play its role importantly. More than USA, the United Nations, the Apex organization, they have a role and responsibility to discharge. How best can we make it effective, and how best can we prevent recurrence of such kind of things, or nuclear installations being hit by drones? This needs to be the focus of the question. Then only we can make some headway in preventing recurrence of these kind of activities in future.
Right, absolutely. I want to bring in Ambassador Sushil Singhal into the conversation as well. Ambassador Singhal, someone, of course, has launched those drones, and as several analysts are also pointing out, that it's so far into the desert region that it doesn't seem like it was a random strike. This was planned. Yes, the UAE did intercept it, but some sort of a red line has been crossed. Now that that red line has been crossed in this region, how does this attack really change the way moving forward? What's really going to change in the next few days, in the next few months, as far as the West Asia war is concerned and as far as the future of the Middle East is concerned?
Well, Devika, thanks for getting me in. This attack on UAE, of course, as everybody agrees, that nobody has claimed the responsibility, including Iran. Of course, there was an attack. This is also clear. But what I feel is that this attack was a sort of an exploratory and threat to UAE. Because it was done in very calibrated manner. They didn't attack, in my view, intentionally the main core. It attacked only the external generator, showing the capability of whosoever has done it, whether Iran has done it or its proxies has done it. Whosoever has done it, showing that despite their depleted capacity, they are able to strike at will at vulnerable point in UAE. So it is a warning to all the Gulf countries that you have to take care of it, in the sense that, if you side with the USA, provide your support, you are at risk. So it's a warning shot to everybody around. Secondly, in my view, they were exploring, I think, the vulnerability in their defense system. Because as you see, the Iran has been continuously attacking, sending drones, and maybe mostly the drones, to the different Gulf countries. So I'm sure they are preparing a sort of a map of preparing in advance in case US try or Israel again strike them. So they will be attacking these Gulf countries with pinpoint accuracy where it really hurts. So this, in my view, is the message which is going in all this. As far as the President Trump is concerned, what he is going to do, of course, nobody knows what he does and what he thinks. And I don't think he is thinking such a long term that, that he wants to prevent China from importing or, bringing dollars only into this. I don't think he has that kind of, understanding. The immediate aim of him, seems to me, is to somehow get or get off this war at a positive note, so that he can claim victory. And if he is able to do this, get the resources of Iran in the process, better for him. But I think immediate aim of President Trump is to get a win, so that he can get out of this issue which is happening, which is that, he doesn't want to continue the Iran war, is very clear. Very clear. Whatever he says, he does. He doesn't want, because he got into this war on the understanding that he will be able to wrap it up into maximum 2 weeks. Whatever his reasons were. But that was the only understanding he has, because he is a businessman. We have to remember that. And a businessman never want to get involved in any war. If he has to do it, he will just strike and come back and claim victory, which he has done in 7 or 8 times. This is the first time he has been caught, and he doesn't know how to get out of it. As far as I see China is very happy. They are incurring losses because they were getting concessional oil from Iran, about 2 lakh barrels a day, about 2 to 3 lakh barrels a day, very concessional rate in yuan. And of course, in return, they were sending them goods again. So it was a win-win for China. But China, I think, is very happy that USA is got into this situation and will like to continue to be in this, despite the incurring losses, economic losses. For China, it's a short-term loss, but long-term gain. Because as we know that, USA has spent so much of its ammunition that now they are really struggling to recoup, and they are not able to do that. We know that because of the, again, rare earth issue is also combined with that. So China is, in my view, is very happy position. Can do the lip service, say that the Strait of Hormuz has to be opened, but they have understanding with Iran that they will allow their ships. Already 30 ships are allowed the day President Trump landed there. So China, very happy situation, and they will continue to support Iran, intelligence and otherwise, but not, of course, you don't expect anything more from that. So it is the USA which is in trouble here, and everybody is pressurizing President Trump. Whether he accepts or not, of course, is a different issue, because he never accepts that he has done wrong. So he's looking for an escape route, which Iran is not willing to give them. And that is actually the major issue. And Iran is raising the price. In fact, today only they have threatened that they will start charging even for the broadband line which goes in the sea, in the Strait of Hormuz. So, they are upping the ante. And whole idea is to pressurize President Trump, that all the countries in the world start, blaming him only for this and get him pressurized, so that whenever the peace comes, it comes on the terms of Iran. I'll stop here.
All right, let me bring in Group Captain UK Devnath as well for his point of view. Group Captain UK Devnath, in your assessments, what really is it that the US is now going to do? And what can we expect in terms of some demands and expectations now of the countries that are having to intercept on a daily basis these strikes and these drones?
Yes, Devika, as far as USA is concerned, their air defense options are now running out. USA had very proudly said that they have provided Patriot air defense missile systems, THAAD air defense missile systems. Now reports had come that even Israel has provided UAE with Iron Dome missile, laser anti-aircraft and anti-drone missile system. But it appears that none of these air defense systems, their surveillance radars, were able to track this particular drone, which hit this nuclear power plant genset. Now, that is more surprising, because knowing UAE geography, this nuclear power plant, protection of this nuclear power plant from aerial threats should have been first priority, and the best of the equipment should have been deployed for defense, air defense of this nuclear power plant. As far as this drone is concerned, it will be relatively easy for American and Israeli scientists and engineers to establish. To start with, some radar station in some Gulf country, which are most of them are operated by US crew, must have tracked this, even if they could not track it that time live, on post damage assessment, they will be able to build the path of this particular drone. This particular drone, if it came from west, that also does not give much clue. You see, if Iran launches a drone it need not fly towards this target in a straight line. Iran can always pre-feed, pre-plan the flight path of this drone to fly west, fly east, and attack from any particular direction. These drones can change direction at their waypoint 1, waypoint 2, waypoint 3. Now, American options for air defense are running out, as rightly bought out. They are running terribly short of interceptor missiles. As far as Iran is concerned, definitely Iran just wanted to set an example that in case the threat of Donald Trump to hit Iranian infrastructure, Iranian ports, harbors, highways, bridges, dams, and Iranian power sector, their thermal power plant, gas-based power plants, in case USA resorts to that threat, then as a counter to those threats, Iran has just demonstrated what it can do. See, the dome of any nuclear power plant is very, very structurally sound. It is designed in a manner so that it can not only it can stop the radiation from inner leak from inside the core, but also it can withstand direct hit from a big bomb, 1000 kg bomb, 500 kg bomb, easily. Now, these Iranian drones, their warhead is relatively small, always in the order of 20 kg, 40 kg, 60 kg. So that kind of a drone, even if it hits the main installation, it won't cause much damage. But yes, Iran, by hitting this genset, has shown they can hit it accurately. Other targets around a nuclear power plant, which can be hit by Iran, are, say, the heavy water plant, the cooling towers, the administrative buildings, can easily be hit. The step-up, step-down transformer can easily be hit by Iran in case there is a skirmish in near future. Devika, I'll end by saying that Iran will not stop showing its capabilities to hit any target in any Gulf country. They have said that earlier they used to choose only American military, air force or naval bases. Now they will go ahead and start hitting the infrastructure in these countries, Gulf countries, in case the USA again starts, Operation Epic Fury 2. In all probability, Donald Trump has already named that he is going to start Operation Sledgehammer soon. But I doubt whether Congress will permit him so easily, given that Republicans have a very fine, thin majority in Congress and in Senate, just about 5 seats or 7 seats. So few Republican senators who are not very happy with Donald Trump's policies, if they cross vote, Donald Trump is in a big trouble. Yes, Devika?
All right. On that note, I thank all of our guests for joining us on the broadcast. Unfortunately, I've completely run out of time and we have to shift our focus to the India-Norway Business Summit.